TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Hello and many thanks for joining us on this special edition of the program Inside Real Estate on Housing TV Africa. My name is Abdurrahman Omar and I'm your host. Many thanks for joining once again. Today on the special edition of the program, we're going to be deliberating on many things, and one of them is the high cost of living condition that we find ourselves in. And we'll also talk about how this high cost of living is associated and is affecting every part of our lives. Today on the program, I'm joined by Mr. Jide Odusolu, who is the founder and CEO of Octa 5 Real Estate, one of the leading and innovative real estate in Nigeria. He's also the former managing director of the Ogun State Property and Investment Corporation, OPIC. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to join us on the program.
Hello, viewers.
Yes. I believe while we have so much to talk about, one of the most crucial things worthy of attention is to look at the high cost of living. Now, from your own take, could this be associated with government policies that's making these policies to bite harder on each and every Nigerian?
Wow. So there's a popular saying that you can't make eggs, you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. The truth in Nigeria is we've been living a lie for many years. Anybody who's honest enough will realize we've been living a false reality. There's this falsehood that Nigeria is a rich nation. We're not a rich nation. We're a middle income nation. We're a middle income nation that was living above its means and was subsidizing luxuries and ostentatious conduct. And what has happened to us increasingly over the last 16 years is that we ran out of tarmac. We ran out of runway. The whole world is changing. For a long time, if you go back to the 60s, where we had a producing economy, where agriculture was a big deal and a lot of the regions were working, we lived within our means and we did very well. But then we found oil, and the cost of oil happened to Nigeria. And so we all started living large, and nobody cared about reinvesting in the system. Unfortunately, we're now moving towards the post-fossil fuel world, where the demand for oil is shrinking. And I tell people now that increasingly we will drink our own oil because nobody's going to buy it. Now, it's not a bad thing when you have a large population because you have a large demand for energy. But it's a problem when you've never invested in building a system to create wealth. So, unfortunately, from the Jonathan government through to the Buhari government, what we basically did was to live off the land. Now the land is fallow. So we are all beginning to starve. And what this government is forced to do is to actually do the work that should have been done 16 years ago in under 2 years. Okay, I mean, before the elections, I told a lot of people, I said, whoever became the president of Nigeria would likely be the most hated president in Nigeria within 2 years if he did the right things. This government is achieving it in less than 6 months. We have a president that is vilified for doing all the things he's doing, and a lot of people just don't care because the cost of living is going up. But it is inevitable.
So now, with him assuming the mantle of leadership, what ways could he be able to remedy all of this?
I think there are two problems that this government has. One is the curse of government in Nigeria. There's this disease. I mean, I think it was Ruben Abati that once said that there was something in Aso Rock that once you get there, you drink that water and you become oblivious to reality. So there's a dissonance between the streets and Aso Rock. And I specifically say Aso Rock, I mean the federal government. There's a disconnect in communication. That's a problem. Now that's on them. They've got to fix their communication. They've got to move from political speak and election speak to governance speak. They started out very well, but I don't understand what has happened. I mean, look at Ajuri Ngalale, who used to be very articulate, putting across the government points, putting across what's going on. He suddenly has lost his voice. He needs to find his voice and start speaking to the issues, not speaking to the people, speaking to the issues and speaking to the Nigerian populace. That's one. And still on that score is also the presence, the appearance of government. It is obscene that we're dealing with a cost of living crisis. We're talking of right-sizing government, and yet we have 56 ministers, half of who are just sleeping. And then you have NAS ordering luxury cars for themselves. These things don't speak well. They might, in the scheme of things, they might be small, but in the perception impact, they're huge. So that's one end of the problem. The second end of the problem is also, it's still communication, but now this is more of information sharing. The government, for some reason, is reticent to tell the truth. We are in a crisis. This crisis has been on before this administration took office. It is worse, and it's not peculiar to Nigeria. In the UK, in the US, if you read the Western media, they're talking about cost of living crisis. As of today, Japan is in recession, UK is in recession, EU is sliding towards it. America is projected to enter recession by the second half of the year. China is still struggling post-COVID. The entire world is struggling. So we are not immune. We're no longer immune. We used to be immune because we had so much money from oil and we could just do whatever we like. We're not immune anymore. So we're as exposed to it as everybody else. Communication is a problem. Perception management is a problem. And then, of course, you then have we the people ourselves. We have been too used for too long to that way of life. So being forced to now deal with realities of the cost of living, it's difficult. I mean, still speaking about this, I remember when I used to go to the US many years ago, and you would see filling station A, and they write a sign that says petrol is 50 cents a gallon. You see filling station B, petrol 45 cents a gallon. You see filling station C, 60 cents a gallon. And people would travel looking for the one that's the cheapest. And my friends used to tell me that you guys are enjoying in Nigeria now. You don't know what it is like to have to calculate what you spend. I mean, you go abroad, people watch what they consume on lights. If you are living one room, you put off the light. If you are going to the next room, you put off the light. You don't put on ACs everywhere. In Nigeria, we leave our lights on all day and all night. Somebody will say, oh, it's hot today. You put on the AC in the bedroom, put on the AC in the living room. We live the false reality. We're all now being forced to live the real reality. So that's part of the issues. And of course, the last issue that I also see as obnoxious personally is the fact that we keep talking about the federal government as if it's the only tier of government in Nigeria.
Exactly.
60% of federally generated revenue is collected by state governments. Why does nobody ask questions? Recently, Statistics did a study that spoke to how much each government house allocated to itself for government house operations in this year's budget. It's ridiculous. Now, I know that for some states, there are large projects that they're doing that is under the state house. But for some states, they're not doing anything. And you have the governor of that state allocating 5 billion, 10 billion to governor's office. What is he doing with it? But nobody asks questions of the governors. So governors come to Abuja, they collect FAC, and they go on vacation. They change some to dollars, others they go and give money to the boys, and they just pay retinue of aides who do nothing. Nobody's questioning it. Meanwhile, hospitals run down. Private schools, shambles. Local security, non-existent. Agriculture, abandoned. And we all keep talking about Tinubu. We didn't elect only Tinubu, President Tinubu. We elected 36 state governors. Who is holding them to account? So these are issues.
All right. Now, looking at the governors also, I'm really glad you were able to pinpoint that, the fact that nobody is asking the question about governors and everything. Now, in all of this, who do you think should be blamed when you look at all of...
You guys first. And when I say you guys, I mean the media.
All right.
I think Nigeria's media is one of the most dishonest in the world with the freedom that they have.
And how do you figure out?
I'll tell you why I say that. Nigerian media, it's amazing. I know I'm going to get into trouble for saying this, but the average Nigerian journalist has become like a beer parlor journalist. You just pick up one piece of information somewhere, some that don't even make sense. I'll run with it.
Right. Now,
the other day, I read online where one, I'd never heard of them before, but they were the ones that flew one kite that former president Babangida criticized current president, and they flew with it, and it was everywhere. Only for them to now come out later and say, "Oh, they're sorry." It's not true. There's no consequence. Before that, it was Punch. Punch carried an article claiming that government was going to do something. Government came and said, no, we're not going to do that. And Punch just wrote a very, in my opinion, a very arrogant letter from their manager editor saying, oh, their source gave them the information and they believe their source, so they ran with it. There's no accountability. Meanwhile, the media should be the defense of the people. The media should be the go-to source for
even
information.
in Constitution, yes, there is that.
But we're not doing that anymore. We're doing sensationalism. We're doing clickbaiting. We're doing headline journalism, which is wrong.
Now look at most of the media organizations we have. When you look at it, it's the political leaders that are the one owning most of the, when you look at it. So you can see,
not all of them,
not all of them, but you can see on the part of the media, you are here sitting here
yes.
with me, and we are deliberating on the way
yes.
forward to see the solutions, how
yes.
we can provide it.
Yes.
As that. One of the things is that there is no holding government to account.
Yes.
We as a media, as a journalist, we will always strive ourselves, but
yes.
we can only do so much.
Yeah.
Understand? When you look at it, we can only do so much. I mean, Housing TV Africa is here, inviting you as a guest to see how you can prosper solutions out of the problem.
Let's put it this way.
Yes.
You guys are, Housing TV Africa, are peculiar. You're professional, you're sector focused, and you try to get the full remit of information, and
exactly.
that I applaud you for.
All right.
Okay, and so I'm not generalizing.
All right.
But when we talk about the mainstream media, the mass media, listen, I don't want to start personalizing, but I can start calling each media house, and you tell where their bias lies. So you're right.
Exactly.
I mean, you can call each one, and you can tell where their bias lies.
Right.
But they say there should, as journalists, in my opinion, there should be a point where your bias takes a backseat.
Exactly.
And information, proper investigative journalism takes the lead position.
Yes.
In this same country, we once had journalists that were hounded, that were killed because they stood for the truth.
All right.
Now we have journalists that are becoming rich from collecting envelopes and from collecting contracts, and it's wrong.
I think it's important that when you said you are not generalizing the whole fact, which means there are bad ones.
Oh yeah, of course. In every sector. In every sector. In every sector. Look, see, in every sector there are good ones and there are bad ones.
Right.
But I guess the point I'm really getting to is that we must hold ourselves to a high standard. And part of holding ourselves to a standard, I mean, we spoke about state governors. Every month, every government, every governor sends his commissioner to Abuja, collect FAC. Apart from budget, and I think there's a Twitter handle that they also handle called Track It or something like that. Apart from that, I don't think there's anybody who actually questions what do you do with this money. All right. You
made mention of media as one of the
So media is a big one.
Yeah, all right.
Then the third big one is we ourselves as Nigerian people. Nigerians are the least fiscally responsible people on planet Earth.
And why do you say that?
We don't pay taxes. Look, in Nigeria, probably, I'm not sure what the correct exact number is right now, but I think less than 20% of us pay tax. We don't pay taxes. We steal power, illegal connections. A Nigerian works in the hospital, he steals drugs to go and run his private hospital. Doctors do PP, lecturers do PP. Everybody is doing one side, we call it side hustle. Everybody is doing one side hustle or the other. And everybody, I mean, I was talking to some people this morning and I said to them, I said, Nigeria, we keep saying this, no, Nigeria not happening. I said, no, that Nigerians are happening to Nigeria. If you pack all of us in Nigeria and take us to Benin, and pack people in Benin to Nigeria, they will become billionaires and will turn Benin to what Nigeria is today, because it's that lack of accountability. Now, see, if you and I become accountable, it becomes easy for us to hold our councillor accountable. It becomes easy for that councillor to hold the commissioner from that area accountable, to hold the House of Assembly member from that area accountable, to hold the governor accountable. The governor holds the House of Rep and Senator accountable. Then they hold the president accountable. But when there's a total lack of accountability from the base upward, everybody just wants to collect his own share. Once there's that lack of accountability, it becomes a disease. So we're in a pandemic of irresponsibility.
All right. And how do you feel? How did we get ourselves to here? Where from the citizens, from the government, from the lack of accountability? Because there has to be a starting point to everything. How did we get ourselves to this point? That Nigerians now, there is no lack of accountability. How did we get? No, you can try your best.
How did we get here?
Yes.
So a disease, a viral infection, it starts small and then gets worse. I think I'll start by blaming the khaki boys.
All right. And what do you mean by khaki boys?
The military.
All right.
We started from when, I remember I mentioned 1960 earlier on. In 1960, yes, our politicians were immature. They were young. But we had a system of government that seemed to work. Then the military came into, they intervened, and they tried to create a command and control system, and that was where the beginning of the end came. See, the beauty of federalism is that no two states are the same. But in every state, you eat what you kill. We went from a federal system to a unitary system. A unitary system is like a sugar daddy system. There's somebody somewhere that's paying and everybody's just largessing. Once we got into that mindset, things just started getting worse from there. So there's no sense of personal responsibility. There's no sense of personal accountability. There's no sense of ownership. Everybody points to somebody else. The constable will tell you that the reason why he's not doing something is because the DCO in the station is not doing. DCO will blame DPO. DPO will blame area commander. Area commander will blame commissioner. Commissioner will blame Abuja. There is no sense of ownership. So we need a total reorientation, because when we have that orientation and we have a sense of, I keep telling people, I say, remember I fiscal responsibility. When I know that it is my tax that is paying for the car that assembly member is driving, one day I'll see him, so I say, okay, get down from this car. What have you done in this constituency?
Exactly.
But right now, it's not my money, in quotes, that's paying for it. So when it comes, he drops it, he puts his hand in his pocket and gives me 20,000. I say, Ranka Didi. Why am I, what kind of system is that? And it becomes a major crisis. And today, we're paying for it. Because the pot is dry. Before it was that the meat is getting smaller. Now there's no meat. Even the pepper is reducing. We're beginning to get to a point where we're drinking broth. We have to rethink everything. And change our paradigm.
I think I'm going to take you on that. Let us take a quick break and we'll be right back. We've been discussing with Mr. Jide, who's also into real estate developing and as well as many other things. We've been discussing on the high cost of living and all. We're going to take a short break and we'll come back. The conversation continues.
Thank you, AIHS, for the opportunity of this exhibition. It was a nice experience. I would like to make it again.
Thank you, AIHS. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, AIHS.
Thank you, AIHS.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Hello, and thank you for staying with us on Inside Real Estate program. For those of you joining us, we've been discussing with the former Managing Director of the Ogun State Property and Investment Corporation, OPIC, Jide Odusolu. We've been discussing on the high cost of a living condition that is affecting Nigerians. Thank you so much, sir, for still being with us.
Thank you.
And still on these high costs of living, and you are a real estate developer.
Yes, I'm a developer.
So how does this affect you? I don't know.
It's been a nightmare. In the last 1 month, price of steel has gone up like 500%. Right. Price of cement has gone up almost the same thing. Cost of labor has gone up. Everything has gone up. And most developers are shutting down sites. Now the problem with that is, much as we do not respect and value development in Nigeria, it's still, next to agriculture, it's probably one of the largest employers of direct labor in this country. And if we shut down sites, the number of boys that are going to be out there jobless is going to more than quadruple.
Whom are automatically recruited into all this insecurity.
Do you understand? I mean, we talk about insecurity. What is insecurity? Insecurity starts from economic, a quest for economic, for economic liberation. People are hungry. People are looking for more. Why do people do why do people do touts? Why do people become motor park boys? They want to make their daily hustle. So when you find that an entire sector is now being choked to death, you've got to ask yourself, what's going on here? And one of the things I wonder is cement, for example, doesn't have any dollar components. So what's going on? Why is cement going from 6,000 naira a bag to 8,500 naira a bag? What's the cost? Okay, you can tell me that steel has a foreign component because you bring in the steel billets. But even if you're bringing in the steel billets, you bring them in and then you then.
That's a very important question. But this question in particular, whom should it be directed? It should be directed to the government or the manufacturers of this cement.
I think that we need to, again, for me, this is going to sound controversial, but I'm tired of always blaming everything on government. So I want to ask questions of the, as far as I'm concerned, questions should be asked of Dangote, questions should be asked of Samad. That's Boa Cement. And then Aliko is, Alaji Aliko, Dangote is Dagsem. And I don't even know who is running Lafarge right now, but whoever is running Lafarge. Questions should be asked of them. Why are your prices spiking? Okay, then when you ask them those questions, they'll probably point at their distribution network. They control it, but they will disown it and say, oh, it's our distributors. Then you ask distributors, why are you spiking prices? They'll probably tell you, oh, it's the transporters. When you go to the transporter, they'll tell you, oh, the price of fuel. Then when you ask for the price of fuel, NNPC says, we've not increased fuel prices. It is arbitrage. It is people taking advantage of each other. Why is Yamodino and Nasiru and Mama Chukudi, why are they increasing the price of basic products in the market? What has Gary got to do with the price of dollar? But we are all taking advantage of each other, and then it becomes it's like a cascading chain. I take advantage of you, you take advantage of me. So, for instance, as a developer, price of materials have like quadrupled in under 6 months. I increase my price. My subscribers complain, we make noise. I do some escalation for them because I have no choice. And they say, okay, well, I'm not going to pay more than this or this also. And I say, yes. I move back to site. Within another 2 months again, I'm back again asking for more money. Then they say, oh, contractual dispute. And we say that the project has failed. Because you have, I'm not saying that we should have price controls, but I'm saying we need to make sure that things are realistic. And as far as I'm personally concerned, if cement people decide that they want to start selling cement at 10,000 a bag, no problem. Then please, government, remove the constraints on people importing cement. Since Nigerian cement is now going to be one of the most profitable in the world, hey, let's all begin to import cement. I don't have to buy Dangote cement. I don't have to buy from Samad. I can bring in my own. So let's all do free for all. Let's all begin to bring it in. You will be surprised that the price will crash because they no longer have the monopoly, which is what they used to thrive. Okay. And when you think about this whole sequence of things, when you look at what does the government control? Fiscal policies. Let government use fiscal constraints and incentives to regulate behavior. So if manufacturers decide that they want to start spiking all their product prices, tax them appropriately and then give people concessions, find ways of being able to pass the concessions and the benefits of the additional taxes to the masses. Because the masses are the ones that need the help, not you and I. We are not the masses. You and I are still able to feed. The people who depend on daily subsistence wages to live. And we're choking them. At the rate we're going, one day those guys will get up and block the junction there and start taxing all of us. May we not get to that day.
Amen to that. And now let's look at this, which is a more crucial item that we take a look at this high cost of living that every Nigerian believes that is the removal of fuel subsidy. Do you share in the belief that the whole situation that we find ourselves is directly associated with the removal of fuel subsidy?
The fact that I'm laughing already tells you the answer. Look, I'll tell you, I'm not an economist, but as of this is 2024. As of 2 years ago, I've been one of those making noise that Naira was overvalued. I personally believe that that's erroneous, foolish defense of the Naira that the previous CBN administration management went on was ruinous. It ended up destroying rather than creating value. You see, Nigeria can no longer operate in an island. We are part of a global community.
Exactly.
And whether we like it or not, it will impact us. Okay? So, first, removal of oil subsidy was something that we had no choice. It had to happen. We couldn't even afford it anymore. Because what had happened was, under the Jonathan administration, they were giving it free for all, which they were sharing money to everybody. And then the company was going to be bankrupt. Under Buhari, NNPC was now the one importing. But what did NNPC do? They started selling our crude and started doing oil swaps. So Nigeria was not making money anymore as much as we used to. I'm putting it in simple terms. We're not making as much money as we used to make from selling crude. We started doing oil swaps so that everywhere kept wet. We all had petrol. We were happy. But the petrol was not being sold at the right price. So what were we doing? We're taking money from this pocket, putting it inside this pocket, and saying, Oga, I'm hungry. Why won't you be hungry? You're not creating value. Okay?
Exactly.
You're being a parasite on your own self. So we ended that. Now, could it have been ended more stylistically? Probably. Should there have been better communication? Definitely. But it was inevitable. The naira to dollar value, I mean, the CBN governor has said it repeatedly. Again, I'm not an economist, but I'm one of that believe that the real value of naira is probably closer to, now, it's closer to 1,000 than the nonsense 1,006 we're seeing. That 1,006 is because everybody now is a dollar trader. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is trying to save in dollars. This is the only country I know that people have $40 billion in domiciliary accounts. You know what that means? People are packing cash in bank accounts in Nigeria that they cannot spend in dollar.
Yes, it's happening in Nigeria.
Yes, go and find out. We have over, I mean, the government, the CBN has spoken about this thing now. We have over $40 billion in domiciliary accounts doing nothing. Okay. Meanwhile, the entire country's external reserves is $33 billion.
Now, how does this affect the whole cost of living?
Because what then happens is, because we import a lot of things, and you have basic components being imported. So if I want to import, say, for instance, steel billets,
yes,
we're talking about housing, I have to go and buy dollar on the black market. So my demand is real, but the cost of getting it is high. When I get it, I bring it in, I put it, I'm now afraid of what it will cost me the next time. So I double my price, thinking that, okay, but when you set free, whether you call it a managed float or a free float, which is what we're doing right now, when you set it free, in principle, where you should get to is I can take my Naira card, walk into a shop in Shanghai, and spend.
All right.
Because if you think about the Korean won, think about the Chinese renminbi, and several other currencies, they have very high exchange value compared to the dollar. But they are big traders because they are producing.
Exactly.
They are producing.
Whereas we were consuming.
Where we were consuming. We don't want to produce. We don't want to produce. You don't want to produce. You just want to eat. It doesn't work. Now, let me tell you the funny thing that's now beginning to happen. With this, you know, before, CFA used to be a lower value to Naira. Now, CFA, which is what the French West Africa spent, and they used to smuggle things from Nigeria. They used to smuggle things into Nigeria. Yeah?
Into Nigeria.
Yes, now, before now, Niger and Niger and Benin, our 37th and 38th states, they used to smuggle into Nigeria.
Right.
Then we were always complaining. That's why Buhari banned, they closed the borders at the point. Now, we're smuggling out of Nigeria.
All right.
You know why we're smuggling out of Nigeria?
And why exactly?
Because Naira is now lower value. So it is cheaper for them to move things out of Nigeria and sell in Cotonou, and sell in Niamey, and sell in Abidjan than it is to sell in Nigeria. But then if we were producing, it would not be a problem.
So you see, one of the solutions now you are putting forward, I mean, is that if so long as we want Nigerian currency to stop free falling, is that we need to start producing.
We need to start producing. We need to start producing. We need to become a producing economy. We need to start generating wealth locally. When we start generating wealth locally, we become wealthy as a people. Because not only do we have a large population, 200 million of us, depending on whoever you listen to, bottom line, there are at least 70 million working Nigerians. Okay, that is bigger than most of the countries in Africa. I think the next largest country population in Africa is probably what? Is it Egypt or one of them? And they're not more than that. Okay, so it means you still have 70 million Nigerians that are capable of being producers. Okay? Now if those guys are producing, we generate enough that we consume here, and we can now trade out the rest.
Exactly. I believe one of the important things that we should be looking at is the very recent Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope and housing and ecstasy. What's your overall assessment on that? I mean, do you believe it will make a difference with regards to the housing deficit we're having in Nigeria?
Cold answer, no. Look, we need to stop this whole farce of government trying to do what private sector should be doing. Government's business should not be to build houses. In sane environments, government creates incentives and then opens up a segment to the private sector and says, come and invest. I will make it worth your while. Private capital comes into that sector and delivers the goods. This old madness, and it is madness, it's a peculiarly Nigerian madness, and it is attract because it's corruption of trying to say, oh, you're going to build 2,000 houses, you're going to build 3,000 houses. Why must you build those houses? Private sector. Look, we've had this same thing has been he has been tried. President Obasanjo did it.
Yes,
it failed. I think the last person that did this thing and it worked was under Shagari Housing Estate. Right. It was the last person that did this whole public housing thing and it worked. Every other government after that has failed, and this is also going to fail because government does not have unlimited resources. So government cannot, should not be engaging in direct construction. What government should be doing is create an enabling environment to make it possible for developers to begin to deploy and build. And let me tell you this. So I have had engagements with foreign investors. I know of at least 3 groups that told me they're ready to bring $100 million into Nigeria for housing. All they asked for was a purchase guarantee. That okay, if we bring in this money and we deploy this capital, can you guarantee us that it will be sold? Who are those that will buy it? And then once you can guarantee it will be sold, I can get us a letter from government saying that when we're ready to remit our money, they will not stop us. It was impossible to get it.
And why was that?
Why was that? Because everybody wants to corner the deal. And like I told,
including the government.
Yes, now of course everybody's looking out for themselves, not for the system. All right. And like I told somebody, I said, look, if I have $100 million today in Nigerian real estate, I can't use it alone. Put Cosgrove, Urban Shelter, Base and Armor, UPDC, LSDP, put everybody deployed in this country together. We will not expend $100 million in a year. And before you think I'm just making it up, family-owned funds raised over $100 billion in capital over 4 years ago. How much of it has been deployed? NMRC is sitting on 100 billion. How many bonds are there how many mortgage bonds are there underwritten? We're not creating supply.
Okay, now you identified these kind of programs that have been going on from administration to administration, because before President Bola Tinubu, former President Muhammadu Buhari was
he did his
VP
wanted to do 3 million house.
You couldn't did anything. I don't think he was able to achieve anything significant.
I said they wanted to do 3 million house, and I was one of those that I asked them that in what planet were they planning to do 3 million house? Are they going to put infrastructure there, or they go, and it failed?
All right, we're going to look at this factor one after the other when we come back from this short break. I'm going to hold you to that. Our viewers, we're going to take a short break and we'll come back. The conversation continues. Do stay with us.
Thank you, AIHS, for the opportunity of this exhibition. It was a nice experience. I would like to make it again.
Thank you, AIHS. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, AIHS.
Thank you, AIHS.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Hello, and thank you for staying with us. And for those joining us, this is the Inside the Real Estate program brought to you by Housing TV Africa. We've been on with former director of the Ogun State Property and Investment Corporation, OPIC, Mr. Jide Odusolu. Thank you so much for still being with us. Now, before we went on this break, we were talking about this issue of corruption that has been an obstacle to actualizing such as a project unveiled by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on strength to see that he has bring an end to the housing deficit in Nigeria. Could you shed more light on this corruption issue that's hitting this? Okay,
so let's start from this premise. I used to be the MD of OPIC. But before then, I ran my own development company called Octo5, and I'm still running Octo5 now. And what I can say is, I won't call it strictly corruption, more of waste. Okay, because if you look at what under President Buhari, they tried to do with family home funds. Family home funds was meant to deliver social housing across Nigeria.
Exactly.
What then happens? Most state governors basically used it as an opportunity for political advantage. So they put it in locations where people don't want the houses, and then the houses get built, and it's cows and goats and lizards that live in them. It's the same thing that always happens. So President Tinubu says he wants to do houses. He's gone to Karasana, and he's trying to put up 3,000 homes. Have you been to Karasana? Karasana basically doesn't have infrastructure. Okay, so are you telling
me it's on the outskirts of the whole city?
So essentially, the bulk of the people that you want to attract over there are not going to go over there. Now let's just suppose that against what used to happen when it worked. The Jakonde houses, the Shagari houses, the 1004s, the first tax. What did government do? Government went to those areas and put infrastructure and drew in people, and then they built houses. So they created homogeneous communities that could survive. So unless you're creating a model that delivers that, it's a failed project from the onset. Now the corruption bit then becomes job for the boys. Somebody gets a contract to do 100 homes. He's happy. He's going to deliver the homes. He doesn't care whether anybody is living in them. But government has tied that money that he cannot get back. Somebody else is going to get contract to deliver steel. Somebody else is going to get contract to do. So people, is basically job for the boys. And while it's okay to want to give job to the boys, give job that creates value. Don't give jobs that don't create value. So if I were to advise the government, rather than government telling me they're trying to do 3,000 homes, I'd say government should create 3,000, not even 3,000, 36 development nodes across Nigeria. Let the Minister of Housing, that's Honorable Minister Dangiwa, and the Minister for Works, Honorable Minister Omai, let them collaborate, let them bring infrastructure to each of those nodes. Now, government can now say, okay, you know what, to draw people in, we're going to catalyze, we're going to give a mandate to Mr. X and Mr. Y, that's the job for the boys part, to do 200 homes here, 150 homes here, 50 homes there. So once they're doing that, we other developers see the value in the place, because now my cost has reduced by 25%. I'm not the one that's doing infrastructure. Marketing has reduced because government is already making us about the area. I then bring in my capital and I deliver those homes. There are people in the police force that are looking for houses. There are people in the Nigerian military that are looking for houses. The vast bulk of civil servants don't have houses. There is demand. There's real demand for at least 3 million homes in Nigeria today. Why are they not being built?
Exactly.
And when you think about it, you rather than I don't know how many billions, 100 and something billion that they say they put aside for this scheme, rather than put that scheme into direct build, put that scheme into a development finance line and tell developers, okay, we'll give you this line at single-digit interest, okay, or guaranteed at single-digit interest. However, you must have a viable project. In your project, you must deliver 25% social housing, which we will take and do whatever we want with, and then you must do the rest at 75% affordable housing. Your homes must not be priced above this price point and that price point. Watch what happens. Now, those developers will come in because they have to make money. They would not only deliver the project, they will make sure that they sell the project because they have to pay back the loan.
Exactly.
And when they pay back the loan, government doesn't lose money, which is what is going to happen in this case. Government doesn't waste money, which is what's going to happen in this case. Government creates jobs and creates value in all the 36 developments that will be created. Think about it. Every house that is built can create a minimum of 20 jobs to 40 jobs. Try and imagine the spill-on effect of creating 1 million jobs in the housing sector within the next 1 year. Oh, and by the way, all these projects that they want to do, guess where the tilers are going to come from? Guess where all the electricians are going to come from? Guess where all the plumbers are going to come from? They're not coming from Nigeria because we don't have the skills. Oh. They're going to come from Cotonou. They're going to come from Togo.
But for many Nigerians, they will say they're initiating this kind of program so that we can be able to have most of our youth.
Good luck to you finding a tiler in Nigeria that can tile. That can tile very well. Unless you're not planning to tile. Good luck finding elections that can do for that skill. So think about it. Imagine if, now we bring Minister of Labour into it. Imagine if a apprenticeship scheme is created. And that apprenticeship scheme then says that as a developer, if you sign on to this scheme, part of what you've obligated to is to create 100, 200 jobs of trained and certified artisans. By the end of that scheme, what you would have done, you have created employment for over 1 million youths. you'd have certified 1 million youths as professionals.
Yes.
When that project is finished, those million youths can go out and begin to create jobs for them. So you are teaching them how to fish. You're not just giving them fish to eat. That's what needs to
Yes,
happen.
I think while you are on this topic, and I believe a lot of Nigerians want to see how you will land on some of this, but while the time is not on our side, let us take a look at the recent appointment made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because a lot of young Nigerians saying the mortgage system is not working, Federal Housing Authority is not functioning well, and then one of the things, Mr. President, when he went and brought his son-in-law as said by Nigerians, do you consider this appointment of Mr. Oyetunde Ojo as a nepotism, or is it just professionally?
Let's call a spade a spade.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's even Sheikh Tinubu that's appointed to a particular job. Is he competent? Okay. Is he able to deliver? That for me should be the litmus test. I don't care if the president decides to appoint Her Excellency Tinubu as a chairman of a parastatal. She puts herself on the line, she gets fired. Okay, so if Mr. Ojo has been given the job, the question we need to ask is he competent? And speaking about FHA, that's one of the agencies that needs total overhaul. FHA is supposed to be the land bank of federal government. Almost all their land banks have been encroached. Almost all their lands have either been stolen or hijacked, or you have all sorts of malfeasance going on there. Now, whoever has that job, the first assignment you should have is go and do a land audit. Confirm how many acres of land, acreages do we still have? Where are they located? What is their status? What is how viable are those land banks? And there's a lot that needs to be done. Now, a good team has been put there in FHA. Architect Talk is also a part of the team. They have their work cut out for them, and they should focus on it and get it done. To me, it's immaterial that it's in-law. Okay, and the man used to be in the House of Reps, if I'm not mistaken. I think was there for a time or two. So he must have something of value to bring to the table, you know. So I believe that somebody like that with political will actually should be able to do the necessary overall that FHA requires urgently if what we're talking about, delivering housing, can become a reality. That's FHA. Federal Mortgage Bank, that one is a basket case. Federal Mortgage Bank also needs an overall. Now, I think Malam Oshiri, who is now the MD, he's been part of the system. He knows how things work. He should be able to go into that bank and restructure it. Listen, there is no reason we have a Federal Mortgage Bank that controls NHF. NHF is where everybody who wants to get housing cheap is putting money in on a monthly basis. There's no reason why an agency that controls NHF cannot create mortgages. How many mortgages did the Federal Mortgage Bank create last year? I mean, they created 5 years ago. It's an indictment of us. So the FMBN needs to be recapitalized, but the first thing that needs to be done, it needs to be overhauled, it needs to be restructured, it needs to be made efficient so that it can raise bonds. Those bonds can be used to fund a lot of these things we're talking about. Okay, I mean, my brother, I think Ken Ogidemi is still at NMLC. He's been sitting down on a lot of money for a while, but under his the law setting him up, he can't give money directly to the market. He has to only buy back mortgages. So there's a lot of synergy, opportunity for synergy between NMLC and FMBN that the government needs to work on and make work. And I believe that the Honorable Minister for Housing, being one of us,
member of HDAD. I mean, it's very important for us to identify because you've been sharing a lot of light for
we're all in the same network.
Yes,
exactly. The Housing Development Advocacy Group of Nigeria is one of us. I mean, these guys are all part of us, and they know that someone like me, I'm always eating them with these facts. I mean, there's so many things that need to be done, but the first thing that also needs to happen, and President Tinubu has a unique advantage. He was a governor in Lagos. He knows how we do it in Lagos. I mean, the popular saying used to be that land was the oil of Lagos. Lagos was not the one building the houses. We developers were the ones building it now. But Lagos was making plenty of money off of us. There is no reason why the same man that did that well in Lagos is now coming to Abuja and says he wants to do 3,000. How many houses does he say he wants to start building?
And why do you think he decided to follow a different path when he knows what happened back then in Lagos?
Maybe I'm wrong, and I will apologize if I am, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a job for the boys. It's just a job for the boys' king, and it should die. They should perish the thoughts. They should overhaul it. There's no reason why we have a minister like Mr. Wale Edu, who is a fantastic gentleman, and he's sitting down and he's hearing that they're going to burn 150 billion naira doing homes that nobody that are likely not going to see the light of the day at the end of the day, and he's championing it. If he's behind it or not, I don't know. I don't know who's behind it. I don't know, but clearly he's sitting down there and he's hearing them. What they should be doing is they should be creating bonds, and like you're saying it, there is serious money that wants to come into this sector.
Exactly.
There is serious money that wants to come into this sector. There is no amount of money that the federal government wants to spend that the private sector cannot outspend it. But the system itself is dysfunctional. The structures are non-existent. Exit is not clarified, and so serious capital is not going to come.
So if government, suffice to say, if government will focus their attentions in real estate development by providing an enabling environment,
Create an enabling environment.
It can, even our issue of insecurity,
It will disappear. Listen, if I go to let's pick one of the states that's currently plagued. Is it Niger? You have Niger State, you have Nasarawa State, you have Katsina. These are all challenge states. Imagine if there's a bond scheme that says, as a developer, if I go to Katsina and create a farm plantation, I'm just giving showing things out there that value at 10 billion. I can raise single-digit interest and put that development in there, and I can go in there and create that thing. All the people that are looking to export things from there, they will come to that place. And they will set up. It's not rocket science.
All right.
It's been done in other locations.
I believe for the past 45 minutes we've been deliberating on all of these public systemic issues. Now let's use the remaining minutes. What solutions? What are the way forward?
I think there's Nigeria. The upside is really much. I will end where I started. We need to become a producing economy. We need to create jobs. We need to create a system that makes it possible to build up skills. Now, all of that means that the Ministry of Labor and Employment, the Ministry of Housing, the Ministry of Works, the Ministry of Finance have to work together to create that enabling environment and then bring in the private sector. You see, because it's only, Nigeria is one of the few top 40 economies I know that does not look at the housing sector as a barometer of the health of its economy. In every other country, they talk about what the housing sector is doing, how it's doing, mortgages. We don't even do mortgages in this country. So there's a lot of room. The way I look at Nigeria and look at housing in Nigeria is the same way banking was in the 80s and the same way telecommunications was in the 90s. There's a huge opportunity. There's huge room for growth. And I'm praying that this particular administration, which has a forward-looking persona, would be able to grasp it and not go back and be making the mistakes of the past.
All right. Former manager Mr. Jide Odusolu.
You keep talking about I'm the MD of Occupy Holdings Limited.
we'll mention that. I think it's very important.
Yes,
we'll identify that. No problem. Yes. All right, Mr. Jide Odusolu is the former managing director of the Ogun State Property and Investment Corporation, OPIC. He is also the founder and CEO of Octa5 Real Estate, one of the leading and innovative real estate in Nigeria. I mean, he likes for us to identify that. He's also an esteemed member of Housing Advocacy Network, HZAT. Mr. Jide, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the program.
My pleasure. Yes,
thank you. And we're glad to have you join us again.
Thank you.
All right. Let's be wise. We're going to round off now, and I believe you enjoyed the conversation because it's been very engaging and been brainstorming on all of these issues that we have been bedeviling with. Join us on another episode where I'll bring you on another interesting topic of enlightenment. My name is Abdurrahman Omar, saying goodbye for now.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.